Hey guys, you ever hear about Live for Love TV? I want you to like, share, and subscribe. Check it out, it's a bomb.
Hello, everybody. My name is Caleb, and you're watching Live for Life TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the 19th day of the 10th month of the 23rd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing extremely well out there. Today, I've got a question to ask the viewers, the people watching. Is there ever a time in our lives where we don't have control over our lives? That question needs to be answered by whoever has an opinion on it. Simply by the way I've asked the question, you'll know that I've made my mind up on that question, and I'm going to make my feelings known towards that question. But you can put in the comments, because remember, 7.4 billion people on the planet, that's 7.4 billion minds. So just the fact that I've got my opinion in my mind doesn't mean that's the final answer. So you can say what you think about that. If it's different, or even if it's the same as what I'm going to say. As I've always talked about in Live for Love TV, and I continually allude to, I believe we have control over our lives. And I believe that because we have control over our lives, we have to take complete responsibility for how our lives are going at any given moment. Now, there are people who are going to, of course, say that, of course, we don't have control over our lives all the time. You know, our bills have got us, our children's situation, the countries we live in, our family situations. There's other things that you could bring up into the mix. But I believe it doesn't matter what you say about those things, unless somebody can convince me otherwise. That I think that when people don't want to accept responsibility that they have control over their lives, normally means their life is not going the way they want it to. They try to find excuses to say that this is X, Y, or Z is causing them why their life is not going as they want it. So it's not in their control. But there's been many times in history where it's shown that we have control over our lives. Now, these are not critiques of people in history, and these are not wrong or rights of those people in history. They're just proofs that we have control over times in our life, or control over our lives in general. For instance, people know about the Middle Passage slavery that came from the coast of West Africa towards the Caribbean and the Americas, and South America and North America. There were many people who were captured from West Africa and taken onto those ships. My ancestors, maybe your ancestors, maybe not, but many of my ancestors were captured, taken onto those ships, and carried across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the issue about that is there were some people who, during that passage, they call it the Middle Passage, who actually took control over their lives in a certain way and decided they weren't going to complete the journey and went overboard. Now, obviously, I hail from those who stayed on the ship and not from those who came off the ship, even though you could have been brothers and sisters, but you know what I mean. Literally, at some point you come out of the loins of those who stayed on the ship. But they took control over their lives in that way. And those who stayed on the ship took control over their life in that way. Now, that's not a wrong or right, a critique of the situation. That's just trying to explain that no matter how dire something looks, we always have some form of control over our lives. People who were on the plantation in those times, some people believed they had no control over their lives. Other people believed they had control over their lives, and those people bolted, went north, went to Canada, went to other places to get away from, maybe didn't make it, but tried to get away from the slave master. And I bring up those points because those are some of the most dire times in history. And if those people during that time can recognize that they had control, or some people recognize they had control over their life, then I think even today, everybody should recognize, whether you do or whether you don't, that's part of the control that you have. So those people who were on the plantation and felt they had no control over their lives and stayed there, that was a form of their own decision making. And the funny thing about it is, when people come along nowadays with all this, I'd say, woo-woo business about enlightenment, to me, enlightenment just means to me whether you know you have control over your life or you don't know you have control over your life. I'm saying you have control over your life completely, all the time. If you know you have control over your life, then maybe that's your enlightenment. That's all it is to me. I can't see anything else that people talk about enlightenment. Oh, the Buddha had enlightenment. after all that time, Buddha was trying to do this and that and that and that and that and that to get enlightenment. And eventually, he realized he already had control. He already had control over his life, and that's why he gave up. He gave up trying to control his life when he already had it. When you've already got it, you don't need to try to do it. It's nothing to attain because you have it. It's an awareness. Enlightenment's just an awareness of the control you actually have over your life. So when we're going through dark periods in our life, especially depression, it's normally when we don't realize the level of control we have over our life, and we just seem to be taken along with everything that's going on. You know, loss of job, loss of family, loss of marriage, loss of a brother or sister, you know, death in the family. So when we don't recognize our control through all of those times, we can quickly find ourselves in a situation where we, whether we get depressed or mentally challenged, or whatever word you want to use it, that's where we're in the dark side. And the enlightenment is just recognizing that you have control. So everybody here is watching this who accepts that regardless of what's going on in their life, I don't care if you've got a million bills and you have to keep going to work every day, you're in control of that situation. If you say you're not in control of that situation, you can never be enlightened. That's my view. You can never attain any enlightenment. The old saying is, before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood. What's the difference? Well, when you're enlightened, you recognize why you're chopping wood. When you're not enlightened, you're chopping wood maybe for somebody else, for money, you feel you have to do this without any control. Once you recognize you're enlightened, you do it with glee and happiness because you're totally and utterly in control of your life. It's not an easy situation to get to, I understand, because sacrifices have to be made to come into that position of recognizing your control of your life. You have to understand that there's fears there. So if you take total control and awareness of control of your life, things may go what you call wrong, you know? Your family may break up, this may happen, somebody may pass away, you may go away and, you know, people think that you should have been over there when you could have helped that person. All these things can happen, and that's why people don't go for the control. They just continually mull along thinking that. And this is I know this fear of what could go wrong when you take total control and awareness of control of your life is serious. I understand it in your mind at that time, because I've been there, we've all been there. It's serious. It's a fear that overtakes you and say, I can't dare do this because I have 4 kids to feed. How could I leave my job, or how could I leave this, or how can I move to this next situation I need to get to when I've been in this situation? I understand that. I understand all of that, and I understand that fear. But the reality is, by not doing something, it doesn't mean you're not in control. It's only that you're saying to yourself you're not in control. You're saying circumstances are controlling, but you're making the choices for those circumstances. You're getting up every day and going back to the same place that you call a 9 to 5 that you maybe not want to go to. You've made a decision, and once you've made the decision, you're in control. As I said before, the question is whether you are aware of that you're in control or you're not in control. Anyway, that's how I see enlightenment. That's how I see the control that I think is over our life. But you may have a different view. In fact, you probably have got a different view, and maybe you can pick holes in what I'm saying and put it in the comments, because I love to hear it. It's good. You know, I don't live in a world all by myself. I live in a world with billions of people with billions of views and ideas and concepts, and you know, and I love to hear other people's views and ideas and concepts. And I tell you one thing: if someone's view, idea, or concept is greater in my mind than the one I had, I adapt it. That's what makes us human beings so survivable. We learn how to adapt somebody else's ideas. Doesn't matter if it's a different class, a different religion, a different race. We adapt one another's ideas, and we've been doing this from day one. So people can say, oh, he was doing that first and he stole that idea, he's doing that first. And so these are not theft, these are adaptations. This is what's called survival. This is how we get through life. We adapt the better ideas till eventually we come to an idea, this is the way to do it. You know, maybe it's who invented the wheel. Maybe people were almost inventing the wheel, or they had things that were close to the wheel. And then one day somebody came along and had a perfectly round wheel and it rolled, and then everybody adapted it. You know, it's not a case of theft, it's a case of adaptation. That's what we do as human beings. Anyway, take care. See you soon. Live for Love TV.
People, one step more.